Hey, thanks for joining us. Welcome into Tuesday. The pharmaceutical company Moderna says its experimental coronavirus vaccine was nearly 95% effective in a pivotal study, adding to hopes that an inoculation for the deadly virus could be available soon. Here with in-depth analysis is Dr. Dean Finelli, partner in the intellectual property department of the law firm Seyfarth Shaw in Washington, D.C. He has over 20 years of experience in pharmaceutical and biotechnology management. Dean, your initial reaction?
This is certainly exciting news. We had the news from Pfizer last week, followed up by Moderna's positive news. So the questions I have, and I think what most scientists want to know, these are preliminary data, how long will this immunity last? Will it be the type of thing where people have to go back each year to get a coronavirus vaccination similar to the flu? Will this provide longer immunity? Will this provide immunity and prevent transmission as well as preventing people from getting the virus? So, all real positive news, still questions to answer, but I think people have a lot to be optimistic about.
Well, and that question about immunity, that's not something we'll even know probably as we're rolling up our sleeve to get that first vaccine dose.
That's right. And, there's only so much information you can gather, and time will tell. These subjects that were in these phase 3 trials for each of Pfizer and Moderna, they'll be followed for the next couple years and monitored to see, how long these antibodies last and how any, of course, potential side effects. But the safety protocol or the safety profile and the efficacy so far look very promising for each of these most advanced candidates.
I mean, it's 94.5% for Moderna. That's way beyond what the FDA was even going to make permissible, right?
That's right. So over the summer, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration came out with guidelines, and they were looking for at least 50%. Now, coming up with 94%, that's, you almost can't get much better than that. So, and to put that in perspective, this is efficacy in a controlled trial. Now, it's likely once this is put out to the general public, the effectiveness will go down a little bit, and that's why it's so important that these initial trial efficacy data is so positive, because if it goes down a little bit, we're still at hopefully a very high threshold to meet that what's known as and what we've heard of this herd immunity.
We're speaking with Dr. Dean Finelli. He's a partner in the intellectual property department of the law firm Seyfarth Shaw in Washington, D.C. He specializes in pharmaceutical tech, and we're talking about this new vaccine news from Moderna, in which they said their COVID vaccine has a 94.5% effective rate. Since there will be, I guess at this point, at least 2 vaccines coming out, does that change priorities in the U.S. about who will get vaccinated first?
So I don't think it'll change priorities. I mean, obviously, if you can imagine, the CDC and the other agencies in the government have been preparing this. They've been coming up with prioritization lists, and then you can imagine healthcare workers, essential personnel are at the top of that list, followed by elderly and people in those highest risk categories. So it's going to take multiple shots on goal. We can't do this with one vaccine. We're going to need multiple vaccines. The fact that Moderna is coming in so high is just going to get us through this that much quicker. So I think the prioritization will remain the same, but we'll just get to that point where we're administering to the general public sooner rather than later. And I'd expect that to be at some point, ideally, hopefully Q1, end of Q1, beginning of Q2 of 2021.
All right, for somebody like yourself who kind of specializes in this stuff, will you be ready when it's time to get vaccinated? Will you go?
I absolutely will go. I mean, I'm hoping as people see other people going, I think we're a little behind schedule. I would have liked to have seen some educational campaign or marketing campaign describing this to people, but nonetheless, I will definitely get it when it's out there.
What about legal concerns that companies like Moderna or Pfizer may have at this point?
So we're obviously in a pandemic situation, and under the PrEP Act, which is the Pandemic Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act, pharmaceutical companies, diagnostic companies, anyone that's developing countermeasures to the virus, which would be a vaccine or a therapeutic or a diagnostic, they would have immunity from liability unless they did something so egregious that was, just basically willful misconduct or even fraud. And, these are some of the best, most highly ethical companies in the world. So I don't foresee that.
Thanks, Doctor. Dr. Dean Finelli with the law firm Seyfarth Shaw in Washington.
America's First News is online all the time. Follow us on Twitter @ThisMorningShow. Like us on Facebook or send us an email thismorning@compassmedianetworks.com.